The Screen Actors Guild nominations are out, and oh my God, the impossible has happened. Not only has Meryl Streep not been nominated for The Post, but either are her cast members like Tom Hanks, and the show's not up for ensemble. Expectation at this point for, especially for performance-driven films like Call Me by Your Name, that underperformed today, while films like Get Out, which doesn't seem like a pretentious acting showcase, did very well. Daniel, let's go to you first here. Just size up the big jaw droppers, first of all.
Oh, well, have you got an hour?
Well, first of all, can I just crow here? I got so much grief in the message boards at Gold Derby about, and in the comment section about my prediction for 3 Billboards, right? That all of a sudden it was the film with the most nominations today. And let me set up your discussion for 1 second here, Daniel, with this observation. And that is, at this point in the Derby, we're all looking for the next Moonlight, of course. What's the little thing that's going to come and upset the expectations? Last year, when La La Land was not nominated for Best Ensemble at the SAG Awards, everyone said, wait a minute, that's key. You got to be nominated there. And when it wasn't, La La supporters like me went, poo, 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 there has to be an exception to every rule. Well, there wasn't. And now with the ensemble nominations, including things like Mudbound and Get Out, and these movies that we now have to take seriously, and The Big Sick, we now have to take seriously as contenders for Best Pictures. So Call Me by Your Name underperformed today. The Post underperformed. 3 Billboards overperformed. So Daniel, take it away.
Well, and also underperformed The Shape of Water. No, received 2 acting nominations, so we know they saw it, but it didn't get in for its ensemble, and Octavia Spencer didn't get in. The Post completely shut out. Daniel Day-Lewis not nominated for lead actor. These are kind of important because, certainly the ensemble category, because no film since Braveheart has won Best Picture at the Oscars without at least the nomination in the ensemble cast category at the SAG Awards. And you have films like The Post and Phantom Thread, which maybe voters didn't see in time. There are about 2,500 members of the nominating
they saw
committee.
it in time.
Well, I mean, even if you use that as an excuse there, and even if that were, part of the situation, there's also the issue that no film released in December has won Best Picture since $1 Million Baby 14 years ago. And that even tripped up La La Land last year when everyone thought that was going to be an exception to that rule. So suddenly that hurts The Shape of Water, The Post, and that could benefit Lady Bird in addition to 3 Billboards, and even a Get Out or a Big Sick. Mudbound is going to depend on whether the Oscars are finally willing to open the doors to Netflix in a big way. But yeah, I think this certainly changes the complexion of the race.
Chris, you next. Pipe in.
I don't buy any of that. The Post was not seen by enough SAG voters. I'm telling you, I was in line for the Post screening I went to. I got there 10 minutes before, just to tell you a quick little story, and there was a line outside the door, and I thought, what is this? And they had, too many people had showed up. They do this for everything. They take more reservations than they can accept, and everybody in line was from the SAG. Almost everybody I was listening to was talking, and they were from the SAG Nomcom. None of them got in, but they called out to me, or not just me, but said, are there any journalists here? If you're a journalist, come on up, and we've got 2 seats left. And boy, you talk about the grumbling as I walked by those people.
And Chris, just you didn't go to a screening that the Spielberg or the
I was a week into the screenings.
Yeah.
I mean, that was how. If Meryl had gotten in or Tom had gotten in, I would have said, oh, they saw it, but they didn't. They weren't. This wasn't kind of like the Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling thing last year, where we should have paid more attention to the fact that they got in, but the movie did not.
Yeah, but
I'll point out one example. The last time that this worked in this favor was Christoph Waltz winning for Django Unchained. Not nominated at SAG, the only actor since Marcia Gay Harden way back in 2000, 2001 to not be in at SAG and win. They had not seen that movie either.
All right, but let me explain what Chris is talking about to people who aren't in the industry. these screenings. There are special SAG non-com screenings. Remember, there are like 150,000 members of SAG, of which I am a member, and so I vote. But there's a nominating committee of about 2,500 who decide the nominees. And what Chris is describing is normally we journalists go to screenings of Oscar contenders for journalists, but every now and then they let us into the guild screenings. Now, the SAG screenings are interesting because there are so many members of SAG that there always is this overspill in the lobby for them to come in. And quite frankly, the reason for that is these out-of-work actors have a lot of time on their hands. And if you're doing an event, if you're doing a screening in Los Angeles or New York, and you want to paper the room, let's say you're Warner Brothers and your turnout is low for the screening that you've planned on Saturday, then you announce to 48 hours before the screening to Screen Actors Guild. It goes on the list of things that are accessible to everyone, and you fill up the seats. It's kind of like, you know, that that's a gusher about to go off the minute you tap the membership of SAG. What Chris is saying is that, yes, there was the overspill when he went to a guild screening, which we're not often invited to as journalists. But in the case of Disaster Artist, which also appears on this list today, James Franco did the impossible and bumped Daniel Day-Lewis and Tom Hanks from nominations. I was at the SAG screening in Los Angeles for that occasion, and it was at the DGA Theater, which is massive, of course, and both Franco brothers and some others were there. They had a great turnout and a great Q&A afterwards. So in the case of these screenings, which are so important, which is where you can be assured as an awards fan watching this process that they have seen things, I'm not quite sure that the cast of the Post was as accessible, for example, to the members, and we never know how important it is that voters actually, you know, get access to the star at a screening, but it's a factor.
And of course, the Disaster Artist is about making a movie. It's about Hollywood, so you know they would have caught into that. Go ahead, Marcus.
Well, I'm gonna say something that's a little controversial, but The Post is not a film that you need to watch in order to vote for an ensemble.
Ensemble?
What I'm saying is, I mean, Meryl, Tom, Bradley, Bob, Sarah, Carrie, this is an all-star cast for the ages. And they didn't, yes, maybe they didn't get into the screenings, but did they need to get into the screenings?
Would that make you angry, though, that you don't get into a screening and you don't get a screener? It's like the only movie you don't get a screener for.
That's true. You didn't get a screener, and I didn't even get a, unless I'm wrong.
You did get one, Tom.
I did get one on the Post?
Yes. Yeah, you did, and we shipped it off to somebody else.
Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, what happens is we share my DVDs with Jack Matthews on them. That's what Marcus is talking about. Okay, well, then it went out.
It should have got in. It really should have got in.
I know.
Now, does this make you question its Oscar chances? Not for Meryl. I think Meryl's still safe.
I think we have to. I think Meryl's in, yeah, but we have to now say that and the reason this is so significant, remember, is that this is the industry voting on itself. Lately, we've been seeing the Critics Awards in the last few days, even going for things like Get Out
and the Florida Project.
Yeah, and the Florida Project, and we're going, oh, that's not real. That's just the critics of groups. But yet, on the other hand, when we see Get Out now penetrate not only an ensemble nomination today, but a Best Actor nomination, we've got to take this real. It's not just critics going crazy over here, and it's not just Gotham Awards and Indie Spirits and stuff. It's in the race. So is Mudbound now. These movies have now crossed over, as The Big Sick has, which is Amazon. Mudbound is Netflix. Which one am I forgetting here? Get Out is Universal. These are not normally big players at the Oscars, not Universal, the big Universal, the major studio, not recently, but now they are. And so all of a sudden you go, wow, this race is changing every day. And last year we had the big streaming service was Amazon with Manchester by the Sea as their big player. Netflix has not done as well as they've been hoping and as much as they've been spending to get into the Oscar race. Now they're in.
So, but do you not think, Tom, I mean, there's still, you know, a month before Oscar nominations voting. I mean, something like The Post, which is going to open up in,
I know. It'll
Christmas,
be nominated.
It's going to be a big hit. It's going to be lots of
well, in the Academy screen.
It's important. I mean, you often talk, I mean, it's an important film, made even more important by the current political climate. I think that, I think that we're going to be pleasantly surprised. I think
we can't get too carried away. Remember what won last year in this category? It was for ensemble. It was Hidden Figures, and so that had very little chance of winning at the Oscars. Marcus, how did the nominations today line up with your theory about TV stars have to be in the ensemble group with the movie stars in order to do well here?
Well, Kumail, he's a big TV star now for Silicon Valley, and I'm sure that helped him with The Big Sick. I mean, look what happened at the Golden Globes 2 days ago. Complete shutout for Big Sick, and now it gets this huge ensemble prize. Lady Bird has Laurie Metcalf, of course, who's won 3 Emmys for Roseanne. Get Out has Bradley Whitford. So you can see 1 or 2 TV stars in each of these. Woody Harrelson from Cheers is in 3 Billboards, but yeah, there's no. Back to the Post again. The Post was full of TV stars, so that clearly is an outlier.
The good news, I think, for talking about how December releases have struggled to win Best Picture at the Oscars lately, I think the good news, the best news for movies like The Post now, is the Winter Olympics are pushing the Oscars back a week or two, which might give voters more time to see movies and give films the chance to build up the momentum that they might not otherwise have had, if they hit a bump in the road like this.
Let me ask you a question. Since they're voting on the best of 2017, shouldn't they wait till January to name their announcements? Same with the Globes, same with the Critics' Choice. This is just a pet peeve of mine year after year.
Hey, who's got a top of mind that key stat we always look for, which is in order to get an Oscar nomination, you need both the Golden Globe nomination and the SAG nomination. And if you do, would you have like an 80% or 70% chance of getting the Oscar nomination? Who knows? I forget the numbers.
Last year, 17 of the 20 SAG nominees went on to Oscar nominations. So
17. That's
just
pretty
unto
high.
itself. Yeah, it's pretty high. I mean, that gives Meryl. I'm sure you're really hoping that Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks are watching this, Tom, because to hear about.
I love the movie so much and their performances. I'm really rooting for it, but it's not going to.
It's always in that range. It's always 16, 17, 18 on occasion. It's somewhere in that high teens.
Okay.
But then there are those exceptions. There are those, and I think it's so important to the retail campaigning that could very well go on between now and when Oscar nomination voting kicks in. And again, it's not until
retail campaigning. I love that. That's brilliant.
Until kissing babies. It's the Iowa caucuses.
It is the Iowa caucus.
So,
what about Dunkirk? Dunkirk got shut out, except for stunts.
So did I know?
Yeah, but Dunkirk. There's no expectation, I think, on the part of the
for
campaigning for Dunkirk, other than perhaps Mark Rylance.
Right. Darkest Hour did get it,
but a lot of people in our prediction center had Dunkirk in for ensemble, projecting ahead, thinking that it would need that in order to win Best Picture at the Oscars.
Now, Judi Dench got in both at the Globes and here. We've been underestimating her in our odds and our experts.
She's been here campaigning in LA. That's odd for her.
I know.
We saw her at that party a couple of weeks ago.
Tell your story of running into Dame Judi Dench at a party. This is somebody you don't normally expect to be on the campaign, retail campaigning.
Her and Gary Oldman in booths next to each other. That's a combination for you. Oh, she was wonderful. She was she had a queue of people, waiting to say hello, and I imagine a lot of the people in that room had not met her before. The funniest thing was I've said something about you could be one of few people ever nominated for playing the same character twice. And it took her a moment to remember. She said something along the lines of, she was looking at me, and I said, well, Victoria and Abdul, if you get in for that. I was thinking that would jog her memory. And she said, okay. And then it just kind of clicked in her head. She said, oh, I was nominated for Mrs. Brown. I said, that's what I mean. You played that character younger, and then you played her toward the end of her life.
It's funny, Chris, when you said in booths next to each other, I imagined kissing booths at a state fair or something that they were.
Oh no, those big restaurant booths.
No, I understand. So Gary Oldman, I mean, he's got to be quite delighted that Daniel Day-Lewis isn't in the mix, right? I mean, that would have been his sort of probably
another veteran British, yeah.
So what about? I mean, I've been writing up all these regional critics awards. Timothée Chalamet. I mean, he's he's winning lots of critics prizes. I mean, he'd be we know he'd be the youngest Oscar winner by almost a decade. I'm sure it's equally. Has SAG ever skewed given a sort of an award to a young sort of rookie actor like him. I mean, that
they're kind of like the Oscars in the way of actor and supporting actor. They'll go veteran more than they'll go younger. Remember, Denzel beat Casey last year.
Right, and he's back. You know,
he's back.
Yeah. He's back. That was very significant, right? You know, the appeal of Call Me by Your Name in a trade union guild that is so notoriously gay friendly and gay welcoming and gay celebratory, I thought would do better here, of course, but not only I'd assumed it would get in for ensemble for sure, and then I was wondering, I'm sure like you guys were, which of the contenders for supporting actor, Armie Hammer or Stuhlbarg, could get in, and for did they cancel each other out by not, or the absence of the ensemble nomination suggests maybe not. The whole thing, in other words, if Call Me by Your Name was going to do really well, it would do really well here among all the peer group awards, you would think.
Yeah, they went out of their way to put two people in that really aren't getting much recognition anywhere else, Steve Carell and Woody Harrelson. So it wasn't like they were jam-packed with people from all these other award shows and they couldn't figure out how to handle it. It just feels like they didn't like that movie as much as other groups.
So
Steve Carell and Woody Harrelson are both TV stars, keep in mind.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it. Marcus, back to that TV theory. Good go.
Tom's just about to ask him a question, but
I'm just finishing up crying over the poor snubs of the nomination.
Well, you're so delighted with 3 Billboards. So, Tom, do you think really now it's Frances McDormand's to lose? I mean,
I do, and I think
female actress.
What is the movie overperforming again? And what overperformed at the Golden Globes, including a nomination for Martin McDonagh, 3 Billboards. What overperformed here? 3 Billboards. So I know I went way out on a limb to predict it would win Best Picture a few weeks ago before the awards started piping in, and then the strange thing is, and I'm going to keep that there for now. But the pattern in recent Oscar history has been the little movie with a big heart wins, like Moonlight last year, and takes down the giant, like Spotlight did over The Revenant, for example. We have this new preferential ballot, so year after year we're getting upsets, and it's very troubling to us pundits who are supposed to know what's going on. So we're all looking for what's the little movie with a big heart this year that'll take everything down, and the presumption from the Critics Awards was either Lady Bird or Call Me by Your Name. And you know, the Gothams and Indie Spirits and everything else. And so all of a sudden, the fact that Call Me by Your Name did not do so well today, and that the one movie overperforming subsequently has been 3 Billboards, some of the old patterns aren't playing out. And I think that it's turning into a fascinating race.
I've got Lady Bird winning the Oscar now for Best Picture. I had 2 or 3 days ago. Well, the big movie with the heart, and we can't find a soul that doesn't at least rank it, say, second or third. Everybody seems to at least like it all the way up to loving it. And other than Greta not getting in for directing at the Globes, it's pretty much gotten in for everything you would expect. Like today, it didn't underperform, it didn't overperform, it performed exactly as we expected.
Greta also missed out on the Indie Spirits, which is really interesting. But I think when the VGA noms come out, I think she'll get in there.
And Indie Spirits are decided that those nominating committees are very small. So
very quirky.
Yeah, very quirky. But and what Chris was mentioning about Lady Bird being second or third is that preferential ballot, where when it comes to the Oscar Best Picture winner, they'll rank 5 of the nominees, and you know, it's a question. They do many layers of counting, and so if your film is highly ranked, doesn't necessarily have to have all the #1 votes, but if it's liked more than some of the other films that it's up against, and certainly if we've said several times, Lady Bird, all of us like or love it, whereas some of these other films are more divisive, and 1 or 2 of us might be, oh, I'm not sure about Get Out, or I'm not sure about Call Me by Your Name, whereas Lady Bird does seem to be the consensus. And so Tom, how much do you think it makes a difference, say, how well it's performing at the box office, like a Lady Bird or a Call Me by Your Name, if it's kind of...
Ever since The Hurt Locker, it hasn't mattered at all. Look at Moonlight made no money last year, and so I think that used to be one of the requisites to win. A movie had to be in that $100 million ballpark, like Chicago, et cetera, in order to win. And you could basically just write it off if it hadn't. But more and more, as the movies have become more accessible to the voters. In other words, first the VHS tapes in the 2000s and 1990s, and then the DVDs, and now with streaming, all of these options are making it easier for them to see, and the voters go more and more art house, more and more small each time. And so we've left behind in just the last several years the big blockbusters, the automatic $100 million benchmark. What matters most is this love, this.
Well, we can't underestimate. I mean, with the Motion Picture Academy expanding by several thousand people in the last couple of years, we can't underestimate the influence of those newer voters and having different tastes, more art house, independent, European, lots of.
Yes, and the point that Chris just made, which is, and you were following up on, Paul, which is what wins Best Picture is the movie with the most number 2 votes generally, because if Revenant is divisive and it's either number 1 or 5 on your ballot when you do your ranking, then that spotlights everybody's number 2, and this year Lady Bird could be everybody's number 2. Yeah.
So I want to put everyone on the spot. So so I think supporting actor and actress, I'm guessing we're all pretty much going to say Willem Dafoe and Laurie Metcalf. Or is anyone differing on that about who's?
Oh yeah, no, it's Sam Rockwell, baby.
No, Sam Rockwell. Okay, we got 1 vote for Sam Rockwell. Anyone else saying?
I'm wondering about Mary J. Blige. She's so popular right now. Everyone just loves her.
Okay. Oh, so it's not this. Okay. So if you're William Dafoe and Laurie Metcalf, you might just have to settle for all those critics awards. And what about up in Best Actress? So Frances McDormand. Who's voting for Frances McDormand to win?
I think I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel?
No.
I've got Saoirse at the moment, and I have no reason to move her down. If Frances wins SAG, I'll probably change that. But especially if Lady Bird feels like a consensus choice for Best Picture, it might be Saoirse for Best Actress. So I'm sticking with her at the moment.
And Chris?
I've got Saoirse winning everything from here forward.
And then really,
and here's a little thing that may not be a little thing. The Globe. Tom always talks about the Globes, especially because it's the biggest award show of the year in terms of viewers beyond, I guess, the Oscars, or right below the Oscars. It's earlier than it normally is. It's the 7th of January. Normally it's a little bit later, and the Oscars are later than normal. That could be a real audition stage for whoever wants to take that and make it be an audition stage. Saoirse should easily win Comedy Actress. If she gets up there and charms them, that's going to help her with SAG voters. That's going to help her with Oscar voters. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now, because I don't know that Frances nor Sally on the other side, on the drama side, is going to get up there and charm anybody.
Yeah, but I can tell you that Frances has got the Globe in the bag. I have to sign off here and dash off to an event. Last thought for me. You guys can keep talking if you'd like. But look, as soon as these industry nominations come out, every single media source in the world says the same thing. Diversity, diversity. Are we in for another Oscar? So what? And if these tea leaves tell us that this is a foreshadowing of the Oscar nominations, it's great news for the Academy, because we have people of color here, like Denzel, like Daniel Kaluuya, like Mary J. Blige, and even an Asian here with Hong Chow for Downsizing. There is some diversity here. It's and with the LGBTQ thing, movie doing fairly well with Timothée. It's looking good, isn't it? And this is we're not going to hear
women, not necessarily today because they don't have directing and writing, but all the other places women are getting in for directing and writing, and that's a good thing too.
Yeah. Okay. Let's wrap up here. We'll do a separate chat on TV. Thanks for everything, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.